Have you seen Mary Poppins?
The old one or the new one?
Oh, there's a new one, isn't there? I haven't seen the new one.
There is no new one, it's just.
It's coming out. Hey, Phoebe, you and your friend Rudy help me. You know the quote in Mary Poppins, a little bit of sugar makes a medicine go down. So, would you guys make sure everybody, they can have candy or a mint? Right? There you go.
No, I don't trust TV. You still deserve candy. Here.
And while they're doing that, does everybody have their nail? Everybody get a nail? All right, you got that thing? You don't know what that's for, do you? Well, as they're passing out candy, I do have. Now I know that George certainly set you up so that you're used to giving feedback. Is that correct? I go a lot of places, and it's like pulling teeth. You know, to get people to talk back to me. You know, and there's always one section that's quiet. Maybe some others will stand up. So I like if I ask a question, that means I want you to.
Answer.
Yes! And I noticed how well you guys were singing, especially that last song. I'm trying to think, was that a recording that you guys singing? And so I stopped singing to discover it was you singing. You guys sounded great, and I thought that spirit of that excitement made this a lot more fun. So I'm married, and I have 4 adult children. My oldest daughter is 40. Man, yeah, yikes. It makes me feel very old. She's special needs, and she lives at home with us, and she looks like she's about 14. She calls me old goat. and if I'm teasing her, she calls me mean old goat. And she bought me a t-shirt with a mean old goat's face on it. So that's a term of endearment, but I call her Miss Piggy. So we have these terms of endearment, and when I go away, my wife said she just gets sick. And I come home, she starts to feel better. She will actually, you know, these heavy equipment things, you know, they go beep, 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 beep. She will stand in front of me, and I swear she has a beeper. Because she will just start backing up, and she said, get ready, old goat, I'm going to sit in your lap. And then she will just curl in my lap and cuddle and put her face right there. And you can just feel her emotional tank going ding, 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 as it rises. So pretty neat. Then my son, who is he'd be 38, and he lives in Columbus, and he has started, if I say missional communities, you know what that is? So it's a type of a church, a faith family. You move into like he did, into the inner city of Columbus, where half the houses are closed up. Heavy African American neighborhood. It's where delivery drivers don't go after 5 o'clock. And so he moved into there, and then he starts just living the life of Christ among them. See people come to Christ, baptized. They do learning communities and huddles and all kinds of strange word expressions for people today. But he does that, and his wife, and their 3 children. And then I have a daughter who just gave birth 7 months ago to their 3rd child, and she's involved in a church plant in Finley called Movement. She works on a worship team and works in the office. She was a high school teacher before that. Then I have my last son, who lives in Vienna, West Virginia, and is moving up this month to Finley because he's taking a master's degree at clinical counseling at Weinberg Seminary. And so they're going to be moving. And when he's done with that in 3 years, he's going to the mission field. He's already been to Lesotho, Mozambique, South Africa, Costa Rica, Puerto Rico, Kenya, and Mexico 3 times. And he was in college when he called his mom and I at 11 o'clock. He says, I have no clue what God wants me to do in my life. And I'm going, are you kidding me? Look at your trail. Where has he spent so much of his summers has been on the mission field? He goes, I never even thought about that because I like doing that so well. What, you're trying to figure out God's going to take you someplace that you don't like to do? I mean, that was kind of a suggestion. And so his wife is an occupational therapist, and so they will go to the mission field and take counseling on the mission field. The number one problem on the mission field is not working with the host people. The number one problem in the field, in the mission field, is relationships with one another. So he's going to go and to help set people up to how to be successful on the mission field. If there's relational problems, How do you solve that if people are going home? How do they begin to make the transition to go back home to the States? Does that make sense? So he's pretty excited about that. He just finished his trimester. And there's a praise in that because he received an A all the way through his trimester. And if you had known him, he's had Lyme disease since he was in high school. He dropped out of college 3 times. He's almost died a couple times from Lyme disease. And so he was on about a 2-year protocol to address Lyme disease and what it was doing. He couldn't even complete a sentence. So for him to be in seminary, getting an A, getting up and giving presentations is nothing short of up. Because that's exactly what it is. It's really cool. So my question is this. Have you noticed there seems to be something wrong with the way Christianity engages the world? Have you made that observation? Should be pretty evident. How about in the way Christianity, in fact, doesn't seem to work in our churches? You noticed it? It's true, isn't it? How about the way Christianity functions in our lives, our personal lives? How about in our government? I mean, isn't there enough chaos in the world to come to this big 3-letter question? Why is Christianity not making the impact that it seems that the Scriptures tell us we should make? Is that a fair question? All right, so kind of want to look at those things because, quite frankly, the way we're doing it has created all these snags and hang-ups, and there's a lot of pain in the world that don't get addressed. So you got your nail, because I'm going to suggest to you that maybe it's about the nail. Now, you need to say, what in the world are you talking about? Let's take a look. How far I got to go? Oh, I got to go down. No wonder. All right, so maybe it's about the nail. You ready? I didn't hear anything. Yeah. Thank you. All right.
It's just, there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me. And I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head. And it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there...
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing...
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
No, see, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See, you're
out.
not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just, sometimes it's like, there's this achy, I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
Yeah, that sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Oh, come on. If you would just...
Don't!
Try to see things my way. Do I have to keep on talking till I can go on? We can work it out. We can work it out.
What do you think? Now, I was at one of our faith communities last week preaching, and I so much wanted to say what I'm going to tell you guys, but they're more sophisticated. And I didn't want them to kick me out before I finished my message. What I wanted to do is tell them, hey, everybody, take that nail, put it between these fingers, go like this and go. See, you guys would understand the humor of that. They would have never understood that humor. Because you know how much better I could make this message? Listen to it. Wow! That will certainly feel a whole lot better if we could just pull that thing out of there, because it's snagging all of our sweaters. When you think of the way Christianity is... Now, I do recognize that we could be doing a marriage seminar right now, right? Isn't this the kind of thing that wives say to men? I don't want you to fix it. I just want you to listen. I know, I've been married 44 years. I've heard this speech. But I thought way too many people identify that. Of how appropriate it is to think about Christianity and how we do church. Is we do a lot of talking, and we want to do a lot of sympathizing and a lot of empathy, but we don't want to identify the nail and pull that thing out of there, right? So there's all kinds of snags. There's snags about the programs we do, the purpose of why we exist, the snags in our relationships. It seems like a lot of things are getting snagged on this nail and then saying it's not about the nail. But it is what? It is about the nail. And so it has to be identified because of the pain and the snags that in fact are being created. So, I'm going to put this in perspective, and I recognize if you need more candy, we'll pass it around, because this is a big issue to grab a hold of, and if you need more sugar to help it go down, we can do that, all right? I brought enough to even do a second round here. So there is this piece where, honestly, there are some snags, and basically we'll do the first one first, and you see the first snag is what? Is broken identity, because one of the things that we can't seem to identify is who is the church and what is the church. If somebody comes up and says, who are you people? How would you describe who you and what you are? We're doing it as a denomination, across the whole denomination. We're doing a strategic plan, because when people say, well, who are the churches of God? People say, I don't know how to respond to them. I don't know who we are. And they've been part of the denomination since 1800s. And they still struggle with identity. Now, you teenagers understand this. Wow. Did I get their attention? Yes. Thumbs up. Yeah. You teenagers certainly understand this more than anybody. Because you're asking, why church? How do we fit in? And even on a personal level, your hormones are running over 300%. Once you get puberty, until about 16, and the world kind of starts to righting itself, and your hormones start backing down, you are struggling with who you are. Is that fair? It's like, I don't know who I am. And at one point you were okay, you were sane, and your parents loved you, and they thought everything's going good. And you go into your room, and you come out one morning, and you're a different person. I raised 4 children. And it literally was like one night. Nathan went into his room. He was 13, and he seemed fine. He came out the next day, and I didn't know who he was. As a matter of fact, I told him to go back in his room and send out Nathan, because I didn't know who this one was. And then he said to me, he says, I'm not sure what happened, and I'm not sure who I am. It's like this hormonal factory just went into overdrive, and when that happens, literally teenagers move into a parallel universe. For you as parents, you probably figured this out. They move into a parallel universe trying to find out who they are apart from their parents. Am I right? And so there's this piece of identity that they're now trying to establish. So when they're little, they're operating on your faith, but they know that they have to find their own faith, and often in that process, they kind of make a break from yours. Correct? So that's all that struggle with identity. But they're not the only ones who struggle with it. Adults struggle with their identity. Who are we really? What does it mean to be a Christian? And when we can't identify this nail and get that thing out of there, wow, we struggle with our identity. So even as a denomination, we say, who are the churches of God? Who are we specifically in reference to who God is? And how do we fit into His kingdom if this is His kingdom? Because we're awfully busy. So language hinders us in finding that identity and figuring out who we are. So I'm going to run us through some big ideas. Do you need more chocolate to go through these big things? Maybe a 5-pound bag of sugar?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
buried in chocolate so it comes out as fudge. Right? I got your attention, don't I? All right. So here it is. Church-centric or kingdom-centric? This is an identity issue. Are we kingdom-centric or church-centric? And what's the difference? How do you determine whether you make a decision in identity, whether you're church-centric or kingdom-centric? Now, interestingly, young people usually get this better than us older folks, especially millennials. They gravitate to this, and they just blew into this because they immediately say, I know right where you're going. And they understand the identity piece. Church-centric, kingdom-centric. What's the difference, and what questions do you ask to know which you are? Oh, this is where you have to talk. Otherwise, take that nail.
Church-centric is when you're focusing only on the building and the church itself. Kingdom-centric is when you are focusing on God.
I think it goes deeper as to church-centric is trying to fill the pews.
Okay.
Kingdom-centric is trying to fill the kingdom of God.
All right. So you stretched hers one. You took hers and went one further, right? Okay. So where'd that candy stop? Where's the word? You see where it stops? I'm always curious where it ends. So put that, pick another. Yes. And because you took a big risk, take another. All right. Because they nailed it. Both of them hit the first part dead on. That nail is bang, there it is. So you're starting to inch it out. Church-centric is basically trying to get people into the four walls. They're trying to get people into this building because we think it's the church. Is that correct?
No.
So if we say church, how many of you said or have said recently, we're going to church? Let me see the hands. Okay, good. Oh, come on. That can't be true. And it's a hard thing to break the habit. You don't go to church. You are the church. You're going to continue to be the church, not go to church. This isn't the church. Just like this is not a sanctuary, where there's a novel idea. You know, we tell children, don't take food into the sanctuary. Don't run in the sanctuary. Don't drink in the sanctuary. And I'm going, they're going to starve to death. And they're going to get dehydrated if that's the case. Because if they're Jesus followers, they are the sanctuary. This building is not. It can be your worship space, your fellowship space. It can be lots of spaces, and you can make whatever rules you want. But you can't make a rule based on that you think it is a
Sanctuary.
Thank you. Oh, you did my heart good. If we could stop there, I could go home. I think, yes, got it. So I'm in Fort Wayne. I'm at a larger gathering of God's people. I call them faith gathering, faith family. And as you're going into that space, there's a big sign that says you are now entering the sanctuary. No food or drink. And I did one of my presentations. Now, literally, when I go and preach somewhere, they're so excited, they're all pumped up, and they're oh, this is so good, it's so good. When I leave, nothing changes. You know, that is disheartening and disgusting to me. Because they're all saying, yeah, amen, that's right. I walk out the door, nothing changes. That didn't happen at this larger church in Fort Wayne, this gathering of God's people. The elders went and got a power tool and went around outside what they call the sanctuary and took those signs down. And every entrance, there was no longer a sign that says you're entering the sanctuary. They said we're making new plaques. You're entering our worship space, which is not sanctuary, because they are the sanctuary, right? And they immediately began to change the language and change the culture. I was so pumped I couldn't believe it. I thought, a prime example of somebody who was understanding about this idea of identity. So church-centric really is. How else do you know? It's when all the focus is on what we do on the weekend. Because that's true, isn't it? When we think about what we do on the weekends, and we think of that as church. And so the focus is how many more people can we get in, and what are we going to do? And think of our resources. The allocation of resources is geared towards what we do what? Here. Not out there. The idea of kingdom-centric is really this weekend event-oriented or other six-day oriented. Where can you have the largest impact? In here? Heavenly days, no. Notice all the empty seats. And go anywhere to any of the other faith communities and you see a lot of empty seats. And they can work harder, you can double up your efforts, and all you do is just tire out faster at trying to work harder to make this the big church-centric or weekend event-centric. Are you with me? You understand how we got this backwards in this whole situation? And so it's like, wow, all your energy is being spent here, and your largest impact are the other 6 days of the week. While you young people are in high school or grade, junior high or wherever you are, your greatest impact is where you're spending most of your time. And where is it? In school. So the largest impact where you people who are working in other places, where is the opportunity for the largest impact? What you do here or where you work? How about where you live versus what you do here? It's the same thing, isn't it? So kingdom-centric is what you're doing, living on mission for Christ the other 6 days of the week. You see the difference? No wonder we get so frustrated and we start snagging the things we do on this nail that we won't identify. Is that fair? You with me? I mean, I recognize this is pretty big to keep your mind wrapped around it, but it's true. So then the next one, and this is a big one. This is huge, huge, huge. Clergy, laity, volunteer, something else. This is an identity issue. Who are you when you're sitting out here? When George is up here preaching with somebody singing, what does that make all of you? It makes you the audience, the spectators, the consumers. And when you need somebody to work with the children or to sing, we ask for the big V word, volunteers. This will be very hard for all of you, is to take that word and clear out of your vocabulary in reference to God's people. No longer should you ever, that ought to be the same as the F word, or the S word, or however you spell all the words you shouldn't be using. You take the word volunteer out. Why? Because that's one of the big snags. If we ask for volunteers, what does that really suggest? That, yes, number one, it becomes an option. If you're looking at volunteers, it's optional, which means you can say yes or no. And what is the most common expression that you do that? No. All right, so that's the other one. What other implication is there to the idea of volunteer? One is it's an optional. The other is
there's no commitment to it. There's no connection. You're not in charge of anything.
no obligation.
Responsibility. Thank you.
Okay, what else? Did you start to say something?
Don't want to come out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, you don't want to come out of your comfort zone. And here's a really big one. This is a big snag here. If I ask for volunteers, it suggests that anybody can do it. Hey, we need a volunteer to do this. You didn't say, there's like, well, if anybody can do it, then you don't need who? You don't need me. If you're asking for a volunteer, no sense me volunteering.
Somebody else will do it.
Someone else will do it. And evidently there's no real qualification. You might do it, so you don't need me. Now the military, in dealing with that, they ask for volunteers. And then they say, all right, everybody step forward. Look at that, you're all volunteers. That's how the military did that. Wait, that's not fair. Because it wasn't optional in the military. That's not the way, at least not the way the Army did this back in the 60s. So, There are some real problems with this whole idea. So if you're not a volunteer, what are you? If you're not supposed to be a consumer or a spectator, what are you?
Servant.
Servants. What if you were something bigger than that? What if you were something bigger?
Children of God. Fishers of men.
Okay. So we have broken identity. You got that? What's the first one? Broken what? And that's who we are. And I'm sorry about you teens, but you have a double identity issue going on. One is who's at church, and the other one is who are you? Right? And we as adults need to figure out how to help, how to come alongside so that you can make that journey without us impeding it. And that's difficult. Right, parents? That's difficult. So, we also have another snag, and it's called broken what? Unity. We do not know how to be the people of God together. Especially in America, where we are so strongly individualistic. It's me and Jesus. And Jesus spent a lot of time with the disciples trying to help them with this whole idea about community. Matter of fact, the Israelites had trouble with this. And so God brought them together and had some pretty strict rules. And then that was to help them to learn to function as a community. So remember the story of Achan? Is that story kind of familiar? It's an Old Testament thing where Achan's part of the Israeli community, the Jewish community, and he had taken some things he wasn't supposed to take, and he hid them in his tent. And so when Israel went out to war, they were losing, couldn't figure out why. And somebody said, there must be sin in the camp. And so ended up that Achan and his family had to get punished because the whole community was being defeated in a battle because of Achan. So he had to teach them about community. We get in the New Testament. How many churches exist because they split from the rest of the body? Somebody gets ticked off, or a group of people get ticked off, and all of a sudden, and Corinthians, the book of Corinthians, Paul talks about it under the inspiration of the Spirit, how we can't solve our own issues. We take one another to court out in the public square to have them decide that we can't decide. And then he said, don't you know that we as a people of God will judge angels? Sometime in the future, we will judge angels, but we can't decide stuff amongst ourselves without hanging our dirty laundry out for the public to see. That was Paul. Do you see the importance of this? See why this is really important to figure out where we go with this idea, this broken community? In the New Testament alone, there are 59 one another passages. Sometime in your home, you got the internet, Google it. And you'll see 59 different New Testament passages that talk about our relationships to one another. So that is heavy. And we'll talk about loving one another, bearing up with one another, don't judge one another, which we think that that's a spiritual gift to judge. Right? Yeah, we do, but it's not. It's a curse. It's part of the curse, actually. So 59 one another passages to help us with this community piece. And then, how about living on mission as families and faith families? See, what happens is when we come together with this weekend idea that it's what happens in here, then we think that only the things that can happen out there is what we do as the combined family, this family. But what about as your individual family, or you as an individual, or you as a teenager individual? How do you live on mission where you go to school, where you play sports, where you do the band, and whatever else you do in your neighborhood? How do you live on mission? We don't do well in this area. Is that fair? And let me just tell you, Churches of God General Conference, all 335 to 36, up 34 this month, up to 337, up. We lost 4 churches. You getting my idea? So, 85% are in decline and dying. 85%. Before you all came, there were how many here left? before you all came. George, how many?
About 7 people.
Yeah, 7 ladies. That was it. We get reports from some of our faith communities and the churches of God that are down to 5. Would you say we aren't doing well in this area? Yeah. But again, it's not just us. 85% of all evangelical people, churches that feel like we should be sharing the gospel, conservative in our theology, are still in the 85% dying and not thriving faith communities. See why you know what? Go ahead. I can see, I'm watching people's faces. Not just you. You see me from his eyes are this way, go, you would hold out some of the best. It's like Jesus and the wine, you know. It's like, wow, this wine was getting pretty weak, and all of a sudden you get this great stuff. Okay, so yeah. Keep it going, keep it going, keep it going.
Sorry, you got the finger here.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're drifting. Hurry, get that candy over there. Get that. Grab a piece and get it over there quickly, and then we'll come back around this way. I'm watching the teens and deteriorating fast. All right. So we don't do well in that area. Got it? Here's the other snag. So we have, what was the first one? Identity. What's the second one? Community. What's this one? Yeah, broken sense of mission. Starts with who are we? What are we together? And what are we going to do together? Alright? So here's this broken sense of mission. Why are we here? Well, today it's to eat candy. Well, it's a little more than just eating candy. So here's the question. you gotta help you with this. Which is bigger? The church has a mission, or the mission has a church. Which is it and why? See, and it's okay to be wrong in here right now. You still get candy. Alright? The church has a mission, the mission has a church. Now, in a group of 100 people, about half the people will say one way, the other half will say the other way. And they will debate it back and forth. And the reason is they haven't determined how you make that decision. What's the larger question that can be asked so that the question can be answered obviously? Because right now, it's not obvious, is it? So, the church has a mission, or the mission has a church. Which is it? You're taking a weenie way out. Take her candy away from her. So she said both.
If you think about it, it is both.
It sounds reasonable, and you would be a great peacemaker. But there is a definitive answer. And when you ask different questions a different way, the answer becomes more obvious. So, how many of you will say the church has a mission in it? All right, 1, 2, 3. How many say the mission has a church? Okay. How many of you aren't going to lift your hand no matter what I ask? Okay. There's some. There's only a few of those. Yeah. All right. So, when you come to the limits on any issue, particularly theological issues, Bible issues, here are some questions that you can ask. Which is bigger? Which is bigger? Is the church bigger or the mission bigger? That will help a little bit. And then the last question really nails this one down. Which came first? This is not chicken and egg. I know how you like that one. But which came first? The church came first or the mission came first? Notice how clear it becomes. Because you don't see the church until when? New Testament. Where do you see mission? In the very beginning and before. before the beginning. Because it says, before God created the heavens and the earth, God had a mission or a plan. Wow, does that help us? See, all of a sudden that becomes very, very clear. Before the foundation of the world was ever laid, God was on mission. And then when He started to create the earth and everything else, everything then comes underneath this mission. That makes sense? So, when you think of teenagers, there is something setting over you that's bigger than you that came before your parents even thought of you as a possibility. That's pretty big. And that goes for the rest of you as well. Because it's all about the big O. And the O is called ownership. It's about ownership. We do not own the mission. The mission does what? Owns us. That's huge. The mission is so big that it owns us. We are not in charge of it. We don't own it. Because when we own it, we think we can twist it, tweak it, and change it as we so desire. And we have. We made the mission about lots of other things than what God made it out to be. Are you with me? So, now here's a mission, and God's saying, I got to do something to make it possible for that mission to be accomplished. I'm going to look for a people. You hear this? I'm going to look for a people. Are you ready? Here's where it really gets big. So, this biblical foundation for a major shift in this idea of mission, here it goes. Look at Exodus. Read it with me so that you have God's Word that's going right in directly, not because I said it. God said, you shall be to me a what? Yes. So even for them, they failed at it, but His intent, this mission, was saying, I need a people, and He said, you're going to be, to me, a kingdom, a priest, and a holy nation. That was His intent. But it does not follow up because of our fallenness as people, and because of who they were, and sin that occurred in their families and in their camp. Then in Isaiah, so we move from Exodus, we move to Isaiah to the prophet, and look what he says. Read it. And you will be called priest of the Lord, and you will be ministers of our God. And look what it became. And it was to look at them as a whole, not the Aaronic priesthood, but the priesthood of the entire nation of Israel were to be ball carriers for the gospel of God, what God was trying to do in reconciling the world back to Himself. All of them were to carry the ball. But it wasn't working, so then He has the Aaronic priests who are going to come in and then have more to do with temple worship. But you see that this is before the foundation. God had a mission, and now He's going to implement it by calling out people and bringing them into the what? He's going to make a kingdom of what out of them? And who does that include? Oh yeah, right there it includes Israel, right? But you're going to see later that all of a sudden we're brought into it. Oops. So now we're going to go to the end of the Scriptures, to the last book of the Bible. So we have it now at the beginning of the Bible, we're now at the end of the Bible, we're in Revelation. Notice this. Verse 6 especially. And made us to be what? And priests. To do what? Yep. And who gets the glory? He does. And the power. Look at Revelation 5, 9 through 10. Persons from where? Every tribe, every language, every... Yeah, you have made them to be a kingdom and priests to serve our God, and they will reign on the earth. Has God changed His mind?
No.
If He had a mission before He created it all, and in Exodus and Isaiah you see the idea of the priesthood of all believers, and you see it all the way to the end of recorded history, the idea of the priesthood of believers, and God hasn't changed His mind. What is He saying about you? What's he saying about you? That you are part of the priesthood of all believers. You are not a volunteer. You are never meant to be a spectator or a consumer. You are meant to be a participant in the priesthood of all believers as a follower of Jesus. He has elevated you from this all the way to here. Don't ever let somebody call you a volunteer and say, wait a minute. You can call me a ministry partner, because that's what we all are, right? We are ministry partners, and we are mobile missionaries. And you'll see where this goes. Are you following me? Or is this already on? And it just peeled the hair right off your head. All right. I see most of you still have your hair. All right. So. I asked this at one of these larger churches in Finland that I was at. And I said, so you have all these snags, and you have broken identity, broken community, and broken mission. What do you have? And this guy who's 50 sitting right over here in the second row says, Michigan football! Place was pandemonium for about 5 minutes. I had a hard time getting back under the table. Laughter everywhere. I said, yeah, sure. After Ohio State stomped Michigan in the ground. Yeah, that's what you get. So, identifying the nail is causing the snag. Listen, there are 3 major takeaways. I don't know. If you're new to the faith, this is all going to be new. And it's going to be hard to just get it all stuffed in there and remain. It's like if you eat too much, the tendency will be for you to cut what? Does that throw back out? Like a kitten does, or something like this. So I want to be careful. But this is huge. During the Reformation, you're talking about the 1500s, and then you're moving into the 1600s, and actually we're out of that Reformation period as the Churches of God, is you have 2 main characters. The first main character is Martin Luther. And he's in Catholicism, and he's having trouble with indulgences and all the things that the Catholic Church is going through, and taking money to pray for people to get out of purgatory, or to be able to sin and get by with it. I mean, just horrible things are going on. And Martin Luther says, this has got to stop. So he put this 95 theses, the things he wanted to talk about, on the church door, nailed it to the door, and said, I want to talk about these 95 things. And of course, that's what got him excommunicated, and then they tried to kill him on several occasions. But he said there are 3 large takeaways that the Reformation should have delivered to us as Protestants. We're good with 2 of them, and the third one we just laid aside. All right? The first one, and John Calvin, by the way, same thing. So you get the sole authority of the Scriptures. Martin Luther said in the Reformation, look, you can't, in the Catholic Church, you can't add to this. No religious group can add to the Scriptures. That really, it's about sola scriptura. It's the sole authority of the Scriptures over our lives as Christians, not all the other things you've added in. Does that make sense? You know? We do things. Young people, guess what? I was pastoring a church in Michigan, and parents a lot of times have opinions about how teenagers should dress and look and all these things. Fair? All right? So I have a family. Actually, he was an elder, and then his wife was part of it. And they had a son named Kevin. And Kevin loved to wear his jean jacket to church. Even though it's not to church. But for the sake of the way they look at it, his mom said, Kevin, you can't wear that jean jacket to church because God doesn't like jean jackets. So that wasn't changing Kevin's mind. So Kevin still is wearing his jean jacket to church. So then his mother comes to me and says, Pastor, you need to tell Kevin that God doesn't like jean jackets at church. I'm going, where is that written? I'll bet you that's Hezekiah 3:5. There is no Hezekiah 3:5. So she's going, Hezekiah 3:5, huh? I said, yeah, find it. She's whipping through her Bible, but she says, I know it's here, I know the name Hezekiah. Because there is a Hezekiah king, but there's no Bible book called Hezekiah. Let's keep looking. Her name is Joyce. Joyce is going through, she says, Pastor, I can't find Hezekiah. I can't find the whole book, let alone 3:5. I said, good, because it's not there. Quit adding to the Scriptures. Quit using God as a heavy for something you want to be heavy about. How many times we do that as parents where we've added to the scriptures? And we made God the heavy because you don't want it. And so you made God the heavy. And guess what? Then the teen thinks about God. Are you getting my language here? You getting what I'm saying? You don't like something? You use you as a heavy. Don't make God. Don't add to the scriptures. So he says, hey, look, it's the scriptures. The other thing was Martin Luther was trying to work his way into heaven. So he would crawl the steps up to the Vatican on his knees until they were bloody. And then he became an insomniac, trying to figure out how he can get justified, and go to heaven by what he does. And it finally dawns on him, the Spirit gets a hold and says, wait a minute, I am justified not by what I do, but I'm justified on faith alone. You hear how big this is? And so Protestant churches say, yes, the Scriptures and Scriptures alone, and faith alone, and then we stop, and we had a third main thing to get across out of the Reformation. You want to know it? Here it is. 3 major takeaways. The third one is, look what it is. The priesthood of all believers. So, here's the scripture that's in the middle. Look at this thing. This is huge. If you begin in verse 4, it talks about Jesus being the stone that builders rejected. You get to 1 Peter 2, it's the stone that verse 4 is the stone that the builders rejected. And then he says, you also, like Jesus, are living stones, are being built into a what?
Spiritual house.
All of you. Into a what?
Spiritual house.
What's the purpose? To be a holy priesthood. To do what?
Offer spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ.
And then verse 9 he says, not only as a holy priesthood, you are a chosen people. I picked you out. Wow. And you are now, look at, then he uses a more royal word. By using the word royal, you are
special possession.
yes, for what reason?
That we may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness to his wonderful light.
Verse 10, look what you were, but now you're not.
Once you were not a people, but now you are the people of God. Once you did not receive mercy, but now you
And who's he talking about? All of us. You understand now? I have a friend who said, boy, you know, what you do, Bill, is just so unique and so special, and wow. And he owns a meat market. And he has discipled and mentored more teenagers than most churches. I can think of 35 young people, high school kids, that he's hired into his meat market, teaching them how to be good workers, teaching them how to not waste steps as they're moving through the meat market, waiting on people, turning them into good employees for the future. At the same time, he's talking to them about Jesus. I said, Jeff, you are part of the priesthood as much as I am part of the priesthood. I'm a pastor, you're not a pastor, but you're part of the priesthood, I'm part of the priesthood. You're just disguised as a meat man. I'm in California speaking in a Latino church, and there's a truck driver saying about where you're sitting, and I started teaching this, and he's always wanted to be in ministry. He's a truck driver, over-the-road truck driver. And I said, what do you do? He said, I'm a truck driver. I said, that's your secondary job. He says, what's my first job? I said, actually, you're part of the priesthood. You are a mobile missionary. You are a ministry partner, part of the priesthood. And he started crying like a baby. He literally, this grown man, started crying like a baby. Because he said, that's what I am? All of a sudden, he saw the higher purpose of what God had called him to, disguised as a truck driver, but he's really part of the priesthood. And he's a ministry partner in living for Jesus 24/7. And so are you. So are you teenagers. Whether you identify it or not, you've been identified if you're a Jesus follower. You got it? You with me? All right. So, here's what Martin Luther took it to. This word priest, he said, should have said, look, I need candy. this word priest should become as common, I hear you. This word priest should be as common as the word that we use to describe ourselves, Christian. Because all Christian are priests. He said, the boy out in the field that's plowing, the maiden who's in the milk house milking cows, are doing priestly work. In fact, their plowing and milking was priestly work. There's no hierarchy in the priesthood. Because vocation, when you think about it, the vocation of milking a cow was not. And that's the way people looked at it. He said, that's not the way it is. No matter where you are, as a mechanic or a housewife or whatever you're doing, you're part of the priesthood, and you are doing priestly work as much as some clergy that's sitting in his office in a building. Are you hearing me? So, Calvin from the same time period said this frees you up from the mediatorial work. You think in Catholicism, who's the mediator between you and God? The priest, that's right. So Calvin said, that's eliminated. Now you have direct access to God, right? You can go to God directly, and you can enter into the Holy of Holies with boldness, because now you're part of that priesthood, that royal priesthood, who can now go in direct access. The only problem is that, particularly in America, John Calvin was afraid of the way people would take this, then you could say, it's me and Jesus, I don't need the rest of believers. And he said, it's not the priesthood of the individual believer that is emphasized, but it's a priesthood of all believers, and it's meant for the community welfare of one another. Especially when you get to Ephesians 4, and it talks about apostles, prophets, evangelists, shepherds, and teachers, and then to equip us all to do works of ministry so that we would grow up in maturity, quit being babies tossed back and forth by everything that comes along, and we grow up by what each individual part contributes to the whole. You hear this? So John Calvin said it's about community, not the individual aspect that you need to deal with. Okay, so going back to the broken sense of mission, here's where you're going to say this for the entire Israel. Matthew 28, 18 through 20 is what we refer to as the mission owning us, and what are we supposed to be doing. And the verb is not go, the command is not go, the command is make disciples. And it's a part of, go is a participle. Any English people in here? What grade are you in? Yes. Ninth. So in the 8th grade, I think, if they still teach it, the 7th and 8th grade, you learn about parts of speech. Oh, okay, so I got a few over here. You guys are all too old. You forgot grammar. You forgot syntax. You did cursive. Hey, cursive. Oh yeah, that's a big deal now. Is that related to cursing, or is that different? Okay, yeah, now they're talking about cursing. But you learned parts of speech, right? You learned about things that are in the imperative. And what's something that's in the imperative? What does that become if it's in the imperative? It's a command. It's a command. As a matter of fact, you can't give a command. Anything that you see written, if it's a verb, it has to be a verb, right? It has to be a verb. To be a command, it has to be a verb. Go, or do, or some different kind of thing that is a command. It's always a verb form. It has to be imperative. Correct?
Walk the dog.
Yeah, walk is do it. That's an imperative. So, if it's a participle, that's verb. That's a verb and noun combined. It's not either one. It's a participle, and it usually ends in ing, and it cannot be a command. When we read the Great Commission, it says go. The problem with that is it's a participle. And if it's a participle, it cannot be the command, because it's a participle. It's not a verb. It's not an imperative. As a matter of fact, baptize and teach are participles in the Great Commission. There's one verb in the imperative in the Great Commission, and it is make. So, as you are living life, as you are going, make disciples. That is the mission setting over you. where do you go to shop? Piggly Wiggly? Where do you go? Walmart, okay. So you're going to Walmart to buy your eggs and your cheese and your milk, and you make that your mission. And so you go to the self-checkout, because it's quick, or to the empty checkout, and make that your mission. Then what happened to this mission? What happened to it? Yeah, it is not in mind. But what if you understood that your mission is, as you are going to Walmart to shop, make disciples of all people groups, because they're hanging out there, and secondarily, buy your milk, cheese, and eggs. And think about the implications of that. That means no self-checkout. That means no empty line. Oh, by the way, the gas pump, that means not plug it in at the gas pump or go in so you can talk to the cashier. That means no ATM machines, because you're not on a mission just to get your cash and drive off. You need to be available for whatever God may open up by way of a door. So you go into the bank so you can see a teller, because that's a real person. Do you understand the implications of this? Yeah, phones, all these kind of things. I mean, you're on mission to make a disciple. Secondarily, do your other things, because that's part of evangelism. Are you with me? Would this change your lifestyle? And would it change the impact on your community? When all of you are engaged, living with this mission setting over you, and expecting George and Marcy to do it. Ouch. Because basically the church has gotten high paying for other people to do what God's called them to do. You with me? All right, almost there. Here we go. With the nail identified and removed, what can we do? One below it is? You actually could address the Great Commission with a fully engaged body, not just a few. Secondly,
Mature body.
yeah, the body can learn to grow up and quit being so immature, fighting and scrapping and picking, and treating another with horrible disrespect. And we can grow up and come underneath the headship of Christ in a better way. It's one thing to believe in the priesthood of God, and then let it figure out how it should shape us, mature us, and grow us, so it changes how we live and act. You with me? All right. Look at that blank screen, and everybody said, Amen, or thank God it's over. Send that leave the candy shoemaker, go away. You had some, didn't you? Did you have candy? That's what I thought. All right. Are you ready for prayer? Yes. Hey, by the way, would this change about who prays? As part of the priesthood, what should we all be learning to do? Yeah, quit being so intimidated by this stuff. If your father comes into the room and you got other brothers and sisters, would you be so intimidated you wouldn't talk to your own father because your brothers and sisters in the room? No way! You'd fight for your chance to talk to your father. There's a couple of you should kids, no. I do free counseling, by the way. If you want to stay around and do counseling, it's free. It's heavy. We can fix this broken stuff. All right, let's pray. Hey, Father. This is heavy stuff, God. I'm not sure we have enough candy to make that medicine go down. But it's life-changing. It's life-changing. It's life-changing about who we are and our identity. Pray especially for teenagers. They got a double whammy. They're just trying to figure out who they are, let alone how do they relate to you, and what's their identity to you. So pray for them that there'd be an extra measure of your Spirit working with them. And I pray for the rest of us as adults and trying to figure out how we live this stuff out. This is not easy stuff. Nobody's taught us this stuff. I didn't even learn it in Bible college and seminary, Father. It was something you had to slap me slick-headed to catch it, and then let it begin to affect my teaching and affect how I live out my life and how I shape my own life. So I pray for the group here. I know you love them. And I know you're calling them out. I know you've identified them before the foundation of the world. And you're trying to pull them up underneath this mission and get them away from the consumer mentality of the audience, the spectators, out of the volunteer realm, and turn them into real ministry partners and mobile missionaries as they figure out how to live out the life of Jesus in them 24/7. And everybody said, Amen. Amen. Thank you for your patience with me.